my people on that last. Hey, YouTube, we're back. Don't know what happened. Don't really care. Comcast is doing some kind of experiment, so they'll hear from me later. I can't worry about it right now. But what I do want to do for my own peace of mind is I want to just run some. Yeah, I think this is most appropriate for tonight.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Welcome back. Oh, yeah, man, how you doing?
All right. No idea what happened, YouTube. Know what happened? No idea what happened, Spreaker. All right. Enough of that. All right, so we're back. 857-600-0518. We were in the middle of the conversation about the debate, and we had some great conversations going on, actually. And we were interrupted by internet connectivity. I mean, every one of my devices went down. Not just one, every device went down. But that's the way of the world. So 857-600-0518. I wonder if I can get back into the groove. We had a caller from 510 who called in and sounded like he was asking a really good question. Hang on, we're going to type this here. And we're back. But anyway, so the last caller that got through before I lost internet connectivity, and if I lose it again, let me just say, if I lose it again, I'm going to bed. Just be honest with you. It's late. If the internet goes out in our neighborhood, I guess it's the, we have a snowstorm that is either happening now or I don't know. But anyway, if it goes down again, we're out of here. I'm going to bed, and I'll see you guys next week. But the last caller that got through before the internet connection went down was we were talking about, is it possible that a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters, just not supporters, but a lot of Americans don't really fully know what Bernie Sanders is promising? The good things that we consider good that can be easily spun as being bad. Like the last caller said, they were like, he's going to make a bigger government. That's not necessarily a bad thing, right? We have expansions of government almost every single year. And then we have contractions of the government almost every single year. And we contract the government, particularly in places where we have social safety nets. And so the question is, do people really understand what Bernie Sanders is promising? I know my audience does, but does the average voter understand? And if we begin to unpack those things, will it actually be, can it be beneficial to Bernie Sanders himself? I actually think that it could. But then there's a lot of other things that happened during the debate. Let me move the screen over here. A lot of other things that went on in the debate that one caller mentioned, Umar. Hillary Clinton made a lot of attacks on Bernie Sanders. And I think that Bernie Sanders really, how can I say this? Bernie Sanders, I don't want to say he's too nice, but I just would say he's not taking every opportunity to clap back at Hillary Clinton. And as we've been saying all week, it's not an attack, in my opinion, if it's the truth. It's not an attack if it's the truth. Just simply stating the facts about Hillary Clinton should not be considered an attack. And so I think there's plenty of room, plenty of opportunity for Bernie Sanders to really hammer Hillary Clinton simply with the truth. And that's one of the things that I felt was a missed opportunity tonight. A missed opportunity was that he actually allowed a lot of things, in my opinion, to slide. And then finally, somewhere along the line, he woke up and said, okay, this is a genuine fight. And then finally, you saw him starting to clap back on Hillary Clinton. But Hillary Clinton, one thing, I see a weakness. I see a big weakness in Hillary Clinton. A weakness for Hillary Clinton is the fact that she does not know when to stop. She doesn't know when to not let someone else get the last word. She kept fighting to get the last word. And a lot of times it made her look rather, to me, it made her look, I don't know if silly is the right word, but petty. It made her look petty because she brought up her vote in Iraq for Iraq. Bernie Sanders didn't bring it up. Bernie Sanders mentioned his vote in Iraq. And she took, I don't know if it was the bait, I don't know what it was, but she could not let it ride. And she showed a level of pettiness that really can be exposed, especially if you think of about a candidate like Donald Trump. Donald Trump would easily expose Hillary Clinton's inability to let someone else have the last word, which is a liability in these debates. So that's something else that I picked up on tonight's debate. All right, folks, we're just getting back. For those of you who are joining us, we lost, as you know what happened. Internet went down across the neighborhood. And so we're just getting back and putting the pieces back together. Again, like I said, if the power goes out this time, if the internet goes out again this time, I'm just going to bed and we'll pick it up next week. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open the lines, 857-600-0518. I'm going to take a look in the chat room and get any comments and feedback. Because it seems like, again, there's a lot of people who have a lot of things to say about the debate this time. And you guys are more than welcome to join the conversation. Tweet me at the BPD show. And thanks for everyone who's found their way back into the new room and these better handlers. All right. Our phone lines are lighting up again. 607, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, Ben, it's Will in New York.
Will, thanks a lot, man. What's going on?
What's up, bro? So like, I had like a whole different like thing that I wanted to bring up with you in the middle, but at first, and I'm going to go back to that because of your caller that was very, I thought she was red baiting, call it whatever you want, but do you feel like these debates are going to help or hurt Bernie Sanders, considering people like you or I might see it through a different lens than the majority of the population that's viewing these debates? Because
go ahead.
There's a filter there for them, it seems like.
I think and this has been my argument from the beginning, right? You have to answer your question. I think they're going to hurt Bernie Sanders, not because of Bernie Sanders, but because America does not do nuance. America does not do what we just discussed, that bigger government is not a bad thing, or the fact that the government has grown in the past in certain areas and gotten smaller in areas that have been detrimental to the middle class. America doesn't do nuance. And so in that regard, if people take away from the debate, like my colleague seems like she took away that he's going to raise taxes and bigger government and he's a socialist, then and to me, that's going to hurt Bernie Sanders. But the problem about that is we can't just leave the conversation there. For me, it's a matter of should we have, no, that's not what I want to say. I want to say this. The fact that Hillary Clinton's campaign benefits off of us being myopic or obtuse and not dealing in any nuance, to me, should be indicative that she is not the candidate that we need. More simply put, anybody that benefits off of us not going into the details, not going into nuance, to me, that's not the type of leadership that we need. And it's time for America to grapple with something more than red meat talking points. But the short answer to your question, in a lot of ways, if that's what people take away from it, then I can see these hurting him. But go ahead. What was your other question? Point.
Yeah, no, I would tend to agree with you, and that's why I think it was getting like lately the last couple TV appearances where you see both of them, it's just been like, okay, Bernie, fight back, fight, bring some heat. There's so much there that you could just bring that heat right to her and just open the whole can of worms on foreign policy. I mean, the Young Turks were talking about it tonight. He could have just said, you know what? Our foreign policy has been a disaster for the last 30 or 40 years. Of course, I'm not going to continue that. We're going to look for better ways to deal with this. But he just kind of,
man,
a lot more of the same. So
I saw that. I agree with you. I think they're going to hurt him. No, I saw that in the chat room. And I think America has this thing where if it's so long as it's done, it's okay. Like, our foreign policy mistake in Iraq is done for all intents and purposes, except for the mess that we've left. But the actual act itself was done, mission accomplished. And so it's somehow experienced and it's okay. What's scary to America is the idea of doing something different. And so saying that the last 30 years of American foreign policy has been a failure, that doesn't calculate to Americans, because they don't look at Iraq and think of it as an abject failure, when in actuality, it is a complete embarrassing failure. but that's because we are very binary and very simple in America. And I'm not saying that to insult Americans. I'm saying that because as by virtue of our leaders and our media and our leaders in the media, they have benefited for so long off of us being very simple and not dealing in any nuances. So I don't think that argument in itself would work, only because how many Americans will really admit that they think the last 30 years of foreign policy has been a complete failure? You know, the first thing I don't know. I don't know. We can unpack that for a while. Will, thanks so much for the call, man.
Yep. Have a good night.
You too. 857-600-0518. Again, I can't promise you that we'll be able to keep broadcasting because, when something happens once one night, it's bound to happen again. Murphy's Law. That's not Murphy's Law, but that's my interpretation of it right now. Tweet me at the BPD show. You could join the conversation. I don't think many Americans actually see that the last 30 years, not even longer, but our ever since we became adventurous in our foreign policies, we have done a disservice to ourselves as a nation. But people still have jogged memories about Vietnam. Do you realize that there are still Americans who look at Vietnam and don't really admit that we lost that war? Because I think it's that misconception of American exceptionalism that anything that we do, so long as it's done, is somehow okay. And we're not able to look at the past with objective lenses and say, no, we screwed up Afghanistan. We screwed up Iraq, Iraq more than Afghanistan. We screwed up Vietnam. But we have people who really look back and think that those were, I don't want to say successes, but experience. 487, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question? Don't tell me it happened again. Am I losing everyone? When it gets,
can you hear me?
I can hear you. Okay. I got nervous. I thought my connection was gone again. What's your name, comment, and a question?
Peace and light. This is Camilla from Poland.
Hey, I'm gonna know your number for long. Camilla, how are you today?
I am wonderful. I am glowing. I am in afterglow. I totally enjoyed that debate. I have no idea what you were talking about before, because the internet connection has just been horrible, as you said. So I'm going to have to go back and watch what you said before now. But let me say this. I'm not on Twitter, but I look forward to seeing the hashtag release the transcript, because she still did not answer that question, as usual. And I have to give credit to Joy Reid, because that's where I got the word salad a couple of years ago. Okay. She did not release the transcript. They did not really hit back on her on that. And the video where she cackled off the request for transcripts should really be circulated. I think that a lot of people, and I am a very aggressive person. I'm very type A personality. I think that Bernie is doing fine in the construct of the debate schematic. I think that he was tough enough. I think that Hillary has enough rope that she's going to hang herself.
Okay.
And he doesn't need to hit her any harder. The Des Moines Register took care of the Iowa debacle on their own.
Yeah, they did.
What has not been mentioned is the fact that last night, because it got lost because of the feed that I was watching. I know I couldn't see it, but when it came back, there was a piece in The Hill today by Jason Easley, and he wrote the quote where she said, because she was rattled, as I had mentioned last night, about the Wall Street question, she said that she was going to go after the big banks. She said she says it every day. She's going to break them up. She was not pushed back on that tonight, at all. At all. And I look forward to seeing that happen.
No, I was going to say, I want to see that hashtag too, because that was the clearest and the most blatant sidestep of a question. They asked her very directly, would you release, and I have to give Chuck Todd some credit here, right? I thought he was going to limit it and just say, are you going to release the transcripts to the Goldman Sachs speech? But then he went further. He said, are you going to release the transcripts to all of your speeches? And she just so openly sidestepped it as if nobody was going to notice. And that's the part to me that is most appalling is that she said it as if nobody's going to notice that you did not answer this very straightforward question. Now, my thing is, I want to see how they're going to spin, how her supporters are going to spin that.
Well, let me thank you for segueing right into what I was getting ready to say.
Go for it.
I suffered through the post debate coverage with I thought Pretty Cat, my fellow Philadelphian, Chris Matthews, a disgrace. And John Podesta and Tad Devine were on, and they brought up the transcript.
Well, I guess that's the internet again, folks.
We want to see these transcripts, and they know that this is an issue that is not going to disappear, because she swears that nothing has been changed by her donations and her campaign contributions and contributions to the taboo Clinton Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Why does no one mention the Clinton Foundation? She wants to talk about guns and the Brady Bill and Bernie.
Yeah.
What about the Clinton Foundation and the sales of illegal arms to foreign governments who should not be getting it while she was Secretary of State? They don't want to mention that ever.
Right. There's so many things.
I'm done.
You dropped the mic. Thanks for the call, Camilla. 857-600-0518. She had a great point. There's so many things that are just not uncovered. And I don't listen. I'm not drawing a false equivalency here, but it's not even a matter of Bernie Sanders being perfect, because he's not. It's just there are so many things you can't. Anyway, this is the point I'm at right now. If you don't see it, you just don't want to see it. If you don't see it, you just don't want to see it. Now, do I think Hillary is any more criminal than most other politicians? I honestly don't think so. I think there's a level that if you obtain power, no matter how you obtain power, the longer you have power, the more prone you are to abuse that power. So I don't think that she's any more criminal than her husband. That's not saying a lot. I don't think that she's any more troubled than a lot of our leaders. But I just feel like if you don't see it, that you don't want to see it. This clear sidestep of the simple question, will you release your transcripts? And she said, we have to look into that. Look into what, Hillary? It's your transcripts. They're your speeches that they're recorded somewhere. Somebody has a recording of them. Why can't you release them? What did you talk about that you can't release? Anyway, 585, you're live on the air. What's your name, coming in, or question?
Hi, I'm Cindy, and I don't even know where to start. There's so many things I
know.
Want to say.
There's a lot going on. What's on your mind, though?
Okay, first I want to start with the healthcare thing, where Hillary Clinton first she's for universal healthcare, then she's against it, then she's for it, and nobody presses her on what do you mean when you say universal healthcare when she's saying she's for it. Because what she's for is something that funds the big insurance companies. And nobody's pressing her on that.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they mention that she's gone back and forth, they don't say, well, when you're saying you support universal health care, what exactly do you mean by it?
Mm-hmm.
But more than that, there's also, in Bernie's plan, she keeps saying things like he wants to, do away with the ACA, do away with Child Health Plus, and do away with Medicare and Medicaid, and start from scratch. And it's so disingenuous.
Right.
Because, first of all, nothing is going to be done away with until there's a plan in place.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of steps to be taken before Bernie's plan could be in place.
Right.
There's a lot of tax reform needed and other things. In the meantime, he wants to keep all those other plans intact and work with them, maybe even strengthen them, and eventually take them into the fold.
And transition over.
Right, exactly. And, I wish he would say that. It does frustrate me that he doesn't say that. And
I'm
a lot
be
of
honest
it
with
between
you.
the lines that we know it, but not everybody, other people, they don't read into it.
Did anybody,
say, oh, she said that.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. And I'm asking the whole audience this. Does anyone else feel as though Bernie Sanders was like, I felt like some of his synapses weren't firing tonight for him to call out all the things. And maybe it's the lights, right? I'm, and it's hard to say that because people are going to think I'm talking about his age. I'm not talking about his age. I've seen him be a lot sharper than he was tonight. And I feel like maybe it was the lights, maybe it was just, maybe he's tired. He's just been on the road, whatever the reason is. I felt like there were so many opportunities for him to expose how disingenuous Hillary Clinton was with her fake assertions, but he just didn't take her up on it. Am I feeling like that by myself?
No, I did get a little of that impression that maybe he was a little off the game and maybe a little tired because he's been going steadily. I felt the same way with the town hall the other night with Hillary Clinton. She was hemming and hawing a lot and everything. And I think tonight maybe it was a little more Bernie's turn that, he wasn't quick in getting in there. But I think there's other times when he just doesn't jump on it, because maybe he's afraid it'll be taken as an attack, but it's not,
Right.
He needs to go beyond. And I think part of it is he assumes that everyone understands the parts he's not filling in. But, not everybody does that. A lot of people, they take what's said, they run with it. They don't fill in the blanks of, okay, this makes sense only if you do this.
Yeah.
And he assumes too much of people that aren't, and these people,
right.
Not everybody is,
Not everyone is going to get into the minutia. Not everyone is going to get into the detail. Thanks so much for the call.
All right. Thank you.
My pleasure. 857-600-0518. So since I lost track of time because I got my connection, I don't know what time we started anymore. I don't know what time I'm supposed to end anymore, but I'll take at least one more call, 857-600-0518, and I will answer your questions out of the chat room. But to me, he missed a lot of opportunities. I want so badly to get thrown in the ring with somebody like Chris Matthews, man. People who throw up these, it's easy. It is easy, with the exception of maybe the pressure of the lights and all the cameras and everything else. With the exception of that, to me, it's so easy to eviscerate their underlying premises, right? And to expose their hypocrisy with the very way they frame the question. And Hillary Clinton was doing that to Bernie Sanders tonight, and I've seen him just tear apart these faulty premises time and time again, and he just doesn't do it to Hillary Clinton. He does it to news reporters, right? He does it to the media, but he doesn't do it to Hillary Clinton. And I think, quite frankly, I think it's time for him to, because Hillary Clinton took the gloves off and she wanted to fight him. Now, where he did not hold anything back was the question of money and politics. I think he did really well with the question of money and politics. I think with the Goldman Sachs conversation, he didn't lay it directly at Hillary Clinton's feet, but his rebuttal about Goldman Sachs and the influence of money, his rebuttal about how much money they have, the influence they have because of the money they contribute to campaigns and the money they contribute through lobbying, that was a great rebuttal. However, he did not close the loop. If he had closed the loop and said, if this type of money buys this type of influence with every other politician, then what do we think is going to buy with Hillary Clinton? Boom, in the conversation. All he had to do was close that loop, and he just didn't do it. But I think after tonight, once he watches the game tape and he reviews the tape, he's going to see how much Hillary Clinton really came for him. And I know that Brooklyn side of him has got to wake up, and that nice Vermonter is going to have to take a step back and let Brooklyn come out. All right. Let's look at the chat room. Just Passing says it's because he doesn't want to attack her and give more ammunition to the Republicans if Trump wins. Well, I think that's a straw man, right? Let's not pretend for a minute that the Republicans need us to give them ammunition against anyone. Republicans are thoroughly capable. They are nefariously genius. As smart as any Democrat is or progressive is for good reasons, they are equally as smart just for negative reasons, right? For their particular goals. They don't need us to give them talking points. They don't need us to give them stuff to fight. They would come up with it on their own. So that's the criticism that I hear all the time. And the fact of the matter is, I think the exact opposite is true. I think the exact opposite is true. If we throw everything at each other in the primaries everything imaginable that we can find at each other in the primaries, then that leaves Republicans with nothing that's been unturned and no surprises, because they're going to find out if there's something to throw at someone, they're going to find out. Deidre says he's afraid the media is going to label him sexist. I would agree with that, Deidre. I actually agree with that 100%. They're really good. They're really good. And Hillary Clinton is really good at this. This is the game that's played, right? This is the game that's played. I want to be able to attack you. I want to be able to call you a racist or insinuate, right? I want to, the subtle smears that she got booed over. Everybody understood that she's the queen of subtle smears, right? She has had her team insinuate that he doesn't like black people. She has had her team insinuate that he doesn't like homosexuals, that are gays, lesbians, LGBT plus. He has had her team strike that. She has had her team insinuate that he has a problem with women. So she does all of this very subtle, nefarious smearing, and then she acts like, I'm just hurt, Senator, that you would talk about this and that you would attack me on that and that you would smear me, while she simultaneously smears him. I mentioned that to address this comment from the chat room that's saying if Bernie Sanders attacks her, then the media will call him sexist. And I agree. That's exactly what they would do. They would attack him as being misogynistic and that he is interrupting her. But they said absolutely nothing of Chris Matthews on yesterday interrupting her in the most condescending way, so long as what he was doing was beneficial to her. So I would say that's probably the number one way, number one excuse that Bernie Sanders doesn't just outright attack her. Besides his moral compass, I think he really believes it as well. All right, let's take a look at a few more questions. Yes, he is very much so walking a thin line. Will in the chat room says it's sexist to think that women would vote for someone just because that person has a uterus. Amazingly enough, and I tweeted this out yesterday, and I didn't say it on air. Bernie Sanders beat Hillary Clinton with women under the age of 30. It was either by 70% or 80%. I know there's a big difference between those 10 points, but between 70% or 80%, which is unimaginable. It's like women of a certain age don't want anything to do with Hillary Clinton. Now, she had a great spin for that. You might not be for me, but I'm for you. That's a hell of a spin. Right? That's the best thing. She's good with those talking points. But I think it says volumes that it's not a race. It's not about her being a woman for a lot of people, for a lot of women in particular. And you saw that tonight with her playing that card, as far as, she was playing the victim while playing the woman card, right? The gender card. She said, I'm ashamed, how dare you, Senator, imply that me as a woman running for the White House is somehow a part of the establishment. And you know what? People actually applauded that foolishness. She said, I have to say it again. I wish I had the clips. She said that basically, how dare you assert that I'm a part of the establishment? I'm a woman running for the White House. Like, does that make sense to anyone? Does it make sense that is it not possible for a woman to be a part of the establishment? Let's go one step further. Is it not possible for a woman who's running for president to be a part of the establishment? Yes, it is very much possible. But so she tried to do a 2-for-1. She tried to remind everyone that she's a woman running for the White House, for number one, and then number two, that somehow that magically makes her not a part of the establishment. Hillary Clinton is the quintessential establishment candidate. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want, right? If that's what you want and you believe that's what's best for the country, good for you. But there's a lot of people who believe otherwise. There's a lot of people who believe firmly that the establishment is the problem. And this is the last thing I'm going to say, and I'm getting out of here because I've got to get teeth pulled in the morning. Wisdom teeth got to get pulled in the morning in the middle of a snowstorm. So we have a snowstorm that started at 5 in the morning. Wisdom teeth pulled at 5, and I have phone calls at 4 that I have to do with some clients. So it's going to be a fun day tomorrow. I'll tell you about how it goes. This is the last thing. This is the last thing that I really want to say about this whole conversation. There is this concerted effort to attempt to lecture people who have progressive economic and foreign policy positions as if we are children who are living in fanciful worlds, that believing in the economic policies that framed and created the middle class in the first place, that we are somehow living in a dream world, Mr. Anderson, right? And these are not Republicans who are trying to convince us of this. Mind you, this is not the GOP. These are not conservatives trying to tell us progressives that we are just foolish. These are Democrats who are trying to lecture us about what we believe economically and foreign policy. To me, you are not a progressive if you're socially liberal. That doesn't make you a progressive. You don't get extra credit. You don't get a special achievement award because you believe in women's rights and you believe in marriage equality, right? It's like we don't give people special recognition because they believe in integration anymore, right? That's the starting condition. That's the baseline. Likewise, you don't get this pass to be a socially liberal person and an economically conservative person and then still consider yourself to be a progressive just because you're a social liberal. No, social liberalism is the baseline. You don't get a pat on the back for that. Where do you stand on economic issues? I don't care that Hillary Clinton stands up for women's rights, because if you're a decent human being, you should stand up for human rights. Bernie Sanders stands up for human rights. That's like a litmus test amongst Democrats. They're acting like we shouldn't have a litmus test on economic policy. Hell, we have litmus tests on everything else. If you don't support marriage equality, then you can't even really be a Democrat right now, not in the party itself. So there are litmus tests. We just don't apply it to economic policy. And what's happening right now is that you have the establishment kicking and flailing its legs, trying to keep all of the progressive movement under their thumbs. All the people who believe in progressive economic ideology, and not just the ideologies, but the economic policies that created the middle class. They want to make us feel like we are idiots. We are dreamers. We are utopians. When out of every ideology, out of every economic framework, the progressive economic ideology is the one with the track record for creating and sustaining a middle class, despite the economic conditions around it. Yes, there was economic growth underneath the initial onset of Reaganomics, but once you adjust for the business cycle, you can't statistically significantly say that was a result of Reaganomics. But if you look at the conditions under which the New Deal was created, and you look at the growth that was stimulated and the middle class that was created from it, you have to attribute it to the New Deal. Investments in the middle class, investments in human capital. And so they're yelling at us as if we are just completely out of our minds and we don't know what we're talking about, and somehow we're children. Also, that they can pull us back and force us to vote against what we believe, and what we believe based on evidence, not just because of a gut feeling. That particular effort, to me, is the biggest problem in the Democratic Party right now. You want the benefit of the progressive caucus, but you don't want to even entertain progressive economic policies. You don't even want to entertain the conversation, let alone the actual policies, right? You don't want to actually move us into a more progressive era. You want to keep us right where Ronald Reagan left us. And all the while, they can't get into office without progressives. And then I hear a lot of people saying, yeah, but Ben, you're going to calling out Hillary Clinton's lack of progressivism is somehow divisive and that we shouldn't do it because it's divisive. How about Hillary Clinton actually be a progressive? And then there would be nothing to be divisive over. How about her policies? You can't go back and rewrite history, but how about putting up a candidate who actually has shame on us for actually having something that we stand on. Shame on us for actually believing in policies that have been proven. Shame on us for not believing in trickle-down economic theories and Ronald Reaganomics light, when it has been proven to be the bane of the middle class. But no, we shouldn't point out the fact that Hillary Clinton's economic stances and foreign policy stances are not as progressive, not even as progressive. On most days, it's not progressive at all. And again, like I said last night, I don't blame Hillary Clinton, because Hillary Clinton has been straightforward up until now and yesterday, where she's just trying to, she's just saying progressive for the sake of playing, they don't want to lose control over the name progressive, even though they don't want to be progressive. I like this comment here, and I'm getting ready to go to bed. CT Dennis said, it's disingenuous and political posturing when you say you're being divisive during a debate. I mean, that's the whole point of a debate, for us to discuss the things that we disagree on. They want us to just be quiet and fall in line. And I'm trying not to say what I'm getting ready to say, but I guess I'm going to say it since I primed it up, right? That would be the number one thing for me to tell them to go to hell. That would be the number one reason for me to say, y'all just go to hell. Because you cannot twist my arm, mute my mouth, and try to force me to do something out of compulsion versus appealing to what I believe in. You can't make me there. Let's go further. And then I keep saying I'm going to bed, but I got to drive down further, because it's this ridiculous. You tell us. Everybody keeps asking Bernie Sanders, what do you define as progressive? No, that's the wrong person to ask. Hillary Clinton, what do you define as progressive? Not your catchphrase, a progressive that gets things done. What things? What are you getting done? What have you actually gotten done? MSNBC, Hardball with Chris Matthews, you tell us, what do you define as progressive? Because I think the problem is, it's not that we don't know what it is, it's that you don't know what it is. And you become so enamored with the success of the status quo in your personal life that you can't even imagine changing it away from what it is right now. And they have absolutely watered down political parties, have been watered down to just being your football team, right? What side are you cheering for? And I don't want to even hear about social policies anymore. Like I said, before I even started this conversation, you are not, you don't get a pass because you support marriage equality. That's just basic humanity. You don't get a pass for supporting integration. That's basic humanity. You don't get a pass for supporting a woman's right to choose. That's just basic humanity. And so, yes, I am saying that Republicans are basically inhumane, whatever. But you don't get a pass to be socially, you don't get a pass to be economically conservative just because you're socially liberal. No, that's how we got suckered into moving further and further and further to the right. The question is, who's going to stand up for economic progressive principles? And you know the problem? I don't even think America understands what that would even look like. They can't even really wrap their head around a time when we would invest just as much in people as we do in businesses. where we would, and not even just businesses, as much as we invest in weapons. I don't think people get it. I think it's actually, if consider this, put yourself in your own shoes and imagine an America where we dare to invest in people as much as we do the military. And imagine the disruptive nature of that transition. Imagine all the companies that would go kicking and screaming into the night because they no longer get these contracts from the government, these wasteful contracts. And now that money is being transferred and now being spent on human capital. Imagine the moments of chaos that would cause. That is an economic revolution. That's not pretty. That is an actual painful process. And I think most Americans can't wrap their head around transitioning back to a time where we actually invested in people versus just like money. All right, folks, I'm sure at this point I have covered all my time. Just reading some questions in the comments in the room. I see a question here that says, Ben, can you speak bills that has been passes? Ben, can you speak bills that has been passes? I'm sorry, I don't speak that language. I absolutely have no idea what language you're speaking, but this has been the Benjamin Dixon Show. And I'll see you guys on Monday. Tuesday is my 1-year anniversary. In 1 year, we've gotten almost 6,000 subscribers on YouTube. We've gotten over 6,000 subscribers on Spreaker, over 3,500 followers on Twitter. We've been growing. We've been doing a lot of good things. So I want to thank you. Couldn't do it without you. I don't know if we'll hit 6,000 by Tuesday, but if we could, it would be up to you sharing some videos, liking, and subscribing. Thanks so much for all that you guys do. And it's because of you that I continue to do what I do. I'll holler at you later. Where's my closing music? Yep, there it is. Let's do that.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Crazy mother.
If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.